The views and opinions expressed on all radio shows broadcast on Tom's Radio Toronto are entirely those of the hosts, guests, and callers who are entirely responsible for all show content and do not in any way reflect the opinions of Tom's Radio Toronto or its staff. These broadcasts are presented and made public as entertainment and general information only, in the hope that they will be entertaining and informative to listeners. They are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or mitigate in any way any disease or condition or to promote any specific lifestyle, belief, religion, political affiliation, or other personal practice, nor is the information presented necessarily accurate or verifiable.
Good evening and welcome to Tom's Radio and the Hoffman Law Show, where every week on our show we discuss all issues relating to law, different areas of law, and answer all of your legal questions. My name is Jennifer Hoffman. I am your host tonight, and I am also a lawyer. I'm the managing partner of Hoffman Law. We are a personal injury and disability law firm. Um, you can reach us anytime. If you have questions about this show, if you have questions about an injury or any type of legal issue, you can always reach us at 416-631-0000 at extension 1, or you can call myself 647-330-5364. And of course, you can always find us at www.hoffmanlaw.ca. And as I mentioned, in the coming weeks, every week, we're going to speak about a different area of the law. And while my firm primarily focuses on personal injury and disability, if there's ever anything that comes up in this show and you have any questions or you need further advice, you can still contact my firm. We will refer you to the right person. We will set you up with the right individual, and we'll make sure that all of your legal questions get answered. So in previous weeks, we have spoken quite a bit about personal injury in the context of motor vehicle accidents. And we also spoke about accident benefits and what to do if you're involved in a car accident. But that's not all there is to personal injury. In fact, my firm practices in many, many other areas of personal injury, not only accident or car accident related. And so today, I kind of wanted to take some time and talk to you about other areas of personal injury that sometimes people don't realize exist. And sometimes people suffer injuries in ways other than a car accident, and they don't know that they can call a lawyer and get legal advice related to other types of injuries. And so while we've spoken about car accidents in particular, today we're going to talk about other things. In the area of motor vehicle accidents, there's also accidents involving cyclists, so people on their bicycles. There are accidents involving public transportation if you're on the TTC or a public bus or the subway, and you get injured, you may have a right to sue, or you may have a right to obtain medical treatment and other benefits that could be available to you. And sometimes people don't know that. If you are involved in a hit and run, let's say you're a pedestrian or a cyclist, or even in your own vehicle, and you get hit by a vehicle who then flees the scene of the accident, even if we never find the other driver that's involved in the accident, you may still have certain rights to sue, both in terms of the lawsuit and in terms of benefits that you will be entitled to help you with your recovery and with any sort of income loss that you may suffer as a result of being injured. If you're a pedestrian, you're walking, you get hit by a vehicle, most certainly um, you will be entitled to compensation and to pursue a lawsuit. Um, Even if you don't have a driver's license, even if you don't have access to your own insurance, contact us. If you've been hit by a car or any other type of motor vehicle, including a bus, a bicycle, a motorcycle, anything like that, call us and we'll be able to discuss your rights with you. Um, so, like I said, those are the other areas of accidents or types of accidents that people might get involved in that involve motor vehicles. However, they're not necessarily in a car or directly hit by a car. Um, so if you were on the bus and you got hit, or you're riding your bicycle, or you're crossing the street, in any one of those scenarios, you're injured. Even if you don't know who the other vehicle is, or the other person doesn't stop and help you, which it happens. It happens more often than I'd like. It's very unfortunate that people don't stop to help, but and certainly the person who's responsible for the accident sometimes flees the scene. So in those circumstances, don't give up. Don't think that just because you don't know who the person is that injured you, that you won't be able to recover anything or commence a lawsuit. Call us 416-631-0000. I'm at extension 1. You can always reach me also at 647-330-5364. I want to emphasize, oftentimes when people are involved in accidents or they're injured, they're not working, they're in pain, they don't realize, or they're concerned rather, about hiring a lawyer and the costs of hiring a lawyer. I want to put your mind at ease that we work entirely on contingency. All of our consultations are free. And in fact, if we think that you have a case and that you have something to move forward with, we don't get paid until we're able to resolve the matter for you. So we will pay all of the out-of-pocket expenses associated with building your case. And then once the file settles, we get reimbursed for that, and that's when we collect our fees. And of course, I'm happy to discuss all of this further with you. In fact, most lawyers work on a contingency fee basis. There are very, very few exceptions, but for the most part, don't let finances prevent you or prevent you from contacting a lawyer, because certainly you will be entitled to legal representation and you do not need to pay anything up front. So contact us for a free consultation. Aside from accidents and injuries involving motor vehicle accident, you may be entitled to compensation if you've been injured, let's say, through a slip and fall. So if you've been injured walking on a public sidewalk or walking on private property, those at times could be complicated claims. And my office, actually, my firm specializes in a lot of slip and fall cases. So that's one area, and we'll get into each other area of injury shortly. Long-term disability, I know we've discussed it in previous shows, but that's a really important one. I want to take some time today to discuss it. And interestingly enough, most people don't realize that when you've been bitten by somebody's dog, you might have a lawsuit. You might be entitled to compensation. So today we're going to talk about dog bites. We're going to talk about boating accidents. People get injured in boats. Of course, product liability, so defective products that have caused harm to you or a loved one, caused injury, and medical malpractice. And those are, we practice in many other areas of personal injury as well, but I'd say that those are the ones that we see most often in my practice and what we pursue most often. But we have expertise in a wide range of practice areas under personal injury. And I think that this is important to know because, like I said earlier, a lot of people don't know that they may have rights to sue if they're injured. A lot of people hear personal injury lawyers, personal injury and disability, and they automatically think that it has to be an injury that was sustained in a car accident, but that's absolutely not the case. Like I said, there are lots of other areas of personal injury. There are lots of other ways that people unfortunately can get injured, and we're here to help guide you and to provide you assistance with your claims. So let's talk about slip and falls. Certainly, we see different types of slip and fall cases in different seasons and times of the year. As I'm sure most of you expect, a lot of the slip and falls and the injuries that occur during the winter involve things such as ice on the ground, um, slippery conditions, hazardous conditions, slush, snow, um, sometimes melted ice, sometimes the combination of black ice that's covered by snow. Typically, it involves that type of hazardous condition on a sidewalk or a private property. In the spring and summer months, we tend to see more slip and falls that involve um, defects in the ground. So, for example, a large pothole that should have been filled, and someone traps their foot inside and falls, or an elevation in a sidewalk, or um, a property, a private property that hasn't been properly maintained, and there are cracks in the cement, cracks in the floors. And unfortunately, people who walk over these hazards could fall, could slip, could get very badly injured. And it's interesting in slip and fall cases, typically what we fight about with the insurance is not about the actual injuries, because unfortunately most people who are injured in slip and fall accidents tend to have very, very serious injuries. We typically see big fractures, surgery, metal plates put in people's legs, metal plates put in people's uh, um, ankles or hands. I'm dealing with quite a large case right now involving hand surgery, and unfortunately, that will have lifelong consequences for this client. We're dealing with people. So aside from the fractures, sometimes people hit or smash their heads on the ground, and that leads to very serious brain injuries. And so, typically, in terms of the medical records and the medical evidence, that's not what we're fighting over with the insurance companies. It's pretty clear what the injuries are. It's pretty clear that the injuries are very serious, very significant. What do we fight over? Liability. What is liability? Liability is essentially who is responsible for the fall, and whether someone who has a property, be it the city or the town or a private owner, the storefront, the mall, the parking lot, whoever owns that, whether they were actually negligent enough that it rises to the level of um, to the level that is required for you to be successful in a lawsuit. Liability at times, and particularly when we're fighting the city, when it slip and falls, let's say on municipal sidewalks, could be very challenging. There are a lot of barriers and a lot of challenges involved in slip and falls, and so it's so important that you contact a lawyer immediately, as soon as you possibly can after you've sustained an injury from a slip and fall. The first barrier is that there's a law in Ontario now that you have to give proper notice, and there are restrictions. There's time limitations on when a notice has to be received by the property owner or by the occupier. Up until January of this year, the only time you had to give notice or the only time limit or restriction was when you got injured on public property. So if you were injured on a city sidewalk or crossing the street, anywhere on a public property, you had 10 days from the time of your injury to report or give notice to the city of the injury. Um, as I'm sure you can imagine, most people have no idea about this law. Most people aren't even thinking about a lawsuit when they fall and fracture or break an ankle. They just want to get to a hospital. They just want to get better. They need their surgery. They're not even thinking about who they need to contact, how they need to contact, what they need to put in the letter, what's a notice letter, nobody's thinking about that when you're in so much pain. And unfortunately, a lot of people miss this notice period, and that's when we come in. There's a lot of case law about how we fight when our clients miss this notice period, because many times, I mean, I've been retained several times within the 10-day period, and then regardless of formalities of documents and stuff, my firm is right on it. Same day, a letter goes out, a notice letter goes out to the city, and we inform the city. And that's great if you call me within the first 10 days. But the reality is most people don't. In fact, most people call me weeks after they've been injured, because they call me when they get out of the hospital. Okay? They're not thinking about calling a lawyer while they're laying in a hospital with a cast on. They call me after they've gone out of the hospital, and obviously they missed the 10-day period. Do not worry. If you miss the 10-day period, you can still call a lawyer. We can still fight it. You need a legal representative to help you battle through that. So that's when you fall on public property. Up until this year, up until January 2021, there was no requirement for notice if you fall or you injure yourself on a privately owned property. There's a 2-year limitation that applies pretty much to every lawsuit in Ontario. It doesn't matter what type of lawsuit, but let's put that 2-year limitation aside for a moment. If you get injured, let's say in the mall, or you get injured in a private parking lot, up until this year, you had those 2 years essentially to start a lawsuit. In January of 2021, a new law came into force or into effect, and essentially what that law said is that if you're injured due to ice or snow on private property, you have 60 days to give proper notice to the property owner. Again, how would an average person know this? How would an average person with a fractured leg laying in the hospital know to give proper notice to the person that owns the property? And that if they don't, then the insurance company can come back later and say, well, you didn't give us notice, so you can't pursue a lawsuit. No. People miss this notice period sometimes. I do not recommend missing this notice period. For all my listeners out there, if you are injured, call me right away. We'll make sure that all the notice periods are met. But again, much like the public notice period of 10 days, even on private property, once you hire a lawyer, we will fight, even if you've missed that notice period. So that's something really, really important to keep in mind when you're hurt on somebody's property. I want to get back to the liability issue, and that's another obstacle that plaintiffs are the people that start a lawsuit or that are injured in any form of accident, slip and fall, MVA. That's okay. There are lots of obstacles that plaintiffs have to face when they fall on private or public property. And like I said, liability is a big one, particularly when it comes to the city. The tests that you have to meet with respect to liability and negligence are very stringent. They're very difficult to meet. We have carved out a bit of a niche in my practice. We do a lot of municipality and public slip and fall cases. And so we know how to navigate these cases. We know how to navigate the volumes and volumes of documents that we receive from the city. And we know how to be successful in these types of claims. So, again, I urge you, if you are ever injured on anybody's property, please do not hesitate. Call a lawyer as soon as you possibly can. I'm happy to speak to you as well. Like I said, my telephone number 416-631-0000. I'm found at extension 1. You can always call me also at 647-330-5364, or find us at our website, hoffmanlaw.ca. All consultations are free, and we will proceed to represent you if we think you have a valid case. Even if you miss the notice periods, even if it's 10 days past or 60 days past and you've missed those periods, give me a call. We will help fight through it. Okay, let's take a quick commercial break now. And when we come back, I would like to have a little chat about long-term disability.
Our company is committed to providing truthful, honest, competent, and result-oriented service through advising and representing our clients in Canada and overseas in a wide range of immigration matters. We focus on providing support, building dependable relationships, and promoting success. We are dedicated to understanding what results you want and to helping you understand what actions we can take on your behalf.
Good evening and welcome back to Tom's Radio and the Hoffman Law Show, where we discuss all things law and answer your pressing legal questions. We actually have a question right now. Someone has written in and asked a question about slip and fall cases. It says, I fell on ice in January but didn't know about the notice period. I broke my leg and I'm still in pain. What do I do now? So, first of all, I'm sorry to hear about this incident and your injury, and that so January you fell. We're now about 8 months out. I'm sorry to hear that you're still suffering from pain. It's very unfortunate that a lot of people who fracture bones and sustain serious injuries, even after the bones or the fracture heals or the bones fuse, unfortunately, they go on to develop chronic pain and they continue to suffer from pain and arthritis. And typically, it's a lifelong condition. So I'm very sorry to hear that you're still struggling with that. In terms of the notice period and the injury having happened 8 months ago, don't fret. Give me a call, 416-631-0000, extension 1. 647-330-5364, or go on our website at hoffmanlaw.ca, and you can put your information in the chat box, and I'll give you a call. We can discuss the details of your incident, your slip and fall further. But and again, every case is very fact specific, but in general, don't worry about missing the notice period. There's still a lot you can do. We have laws that help us, or essentially equip us with tools to fight these notice periods and what is reasonable. And the law recognizes that sometimes people have what's called reasonable excuses for the delay in notifying the city, or well, it doesn't specify whether you fell on city property or private property, and of course that could potentially make a difference as well. But regardless, the law recognizes that people do have reasonable excuses for missing these notice periods, and I'm happy to discuss it further with you. Again, it's a free consultation. Feel free to call me. You still will have most likely will have a viable action here, and we can certainly look at the circumstances and your injuries and how the fall actually occurred, and then we can strategize in terms of liability, next steps, and how we'll pursue in a lawsuit. I do actually want to add to that. When we sue in slip and falls, and in fact in most personal injury, there are lots of different things that you can sue for. First of all is general damages, which is the pain and suffering that you sustained in the loss of your enjoyment of life. But also, if you've lost work, you may have a claim for economic loss. If you had to hire someone to help you around the house, you will have a claim for housekeeping and attendant care services potentially. And certainly if you'll need medical or rehabilitation services into the future, those aren't available immediately at the beginning, but they certainly form part of the lawsuit, and we would pursue all of those on your behalf. So again, I encourage you, call me. We can discuss your particular case in a lot more detail. So moving on to long-term disability. Long-term disability is an area of personal injury that my firm actually does quite a bit of work in. We have a big practice in long-term disability, and we've become quite the experts in this area over time. Unlike other areas of personal injury where you're always suing the party that caused your injuries, long-term disability is different. Long-term disability is not a lawsuit against another party or an entity or person who caused you injury. Long-term disability is a lawsuit against an insurer, an insurance company that has denied you benefits. So long-term disability, or LTD, arises out of private policies. What does that mean? That means that you have to purchase a policy, be it yourself or your employer, that entitles you to receive long-term disability benefits to make up for any income that you've lost as a result of being unable to work, whether it's due to an injury or whether it's due to a medical condition. So sometimes people who are working will develop a medical condition, and it can be physical, it can be psychological or emotional, it can be things, such as cancer or severe anxiety, major depression, a wide array of medical conditions, or it could be an injury. They were involved in a car accident. They were involved in a slip and fall. They're not able to work. They suffered a brain injury. They suffered a concussion, a fractured leg, whatever the case is. If you're in a situation where you're unable to work, you may be entitled to long-term disability benefits. The only way you can have access to these benefits is if you own a policy, an LTD policy. The majority of LTD policies are paid for and purchased by employers. So, if you're working for someone, I encourage you to look at your benefits package and check to see if you do in fact also have an LTD policy as part of your benefits package through work. The other way that you can get it, if you don't have it through work, or if you want to upgrade your LTD policy, I have a lot of friends that have actually purchased private LTD policies in addition to the LTD policies that their employers provide because they wanted a better policy or they wanted to upgrade their policies. So again, these are private insurance policies that either you need to purchase and pay for yourself monthly or you get through your employment. I think LTD is very, very important because it covers both income loss as a result of an injury that's caused by another person, and it covers income loss due to a medical condition. And unfortunately, people deal with unforeseen circumstances. There could be numerous reasons why someone is not able to work, and this is an important policy to have. A lawyer gets involved in LTD policies or in LTD benefits once the insurance denies your claim. So for example, let's say you hold a policy with Great West Life or Sun Life or Manulife, all of those insurers, and there are many more, Equitable Life. There are lots of insurance companies that will provide LTD policies. Let's say you hold one, you develop a medical condition, you're unable to work, you apply for long-term disability. The insurance, once you apply for long-term disability, will either say, yes, okay, you're approved, we're going to pay you benefits, or they'll deny your claim and you'll have a right to appeal their decision. If they approve your claim and you're receiving benefits, they may cut you off at any point. Maybe they'll pay you benefits for a year. Maybe they'll pay you benefits for 6 months. Maybe they'll pay you benefits for 5 years and then decide that you're able to go back to work, and then they'll cut you off from your benefits. That is the point that you involve a lawyer. The moment you have either denial, so let's say you apply and they deny you right from the outset, or you have been paid benefits and then you get cut off your benefits, that is when you call a lawyer. That is when you call my office. That is when we'll pursue a lawsuit against the insurance companies, because oftentimes, insurance, they're not your friends. They don't want to pay you the money. They say that they're there to protect you, but really, they're not there to pay you. They're there to find any excuse possible to not pay out the benefits. So you have to get a lawyer involved. We know how to fight these policies. Oftentimes, people get denied or cut off unjustly. There's no justification on the part of the insurance company. They haven't handled the claim properly. They don't have the proper medical evidence to support a denial. And so that's when we come in and we battle those decisions. And we've had quite a bit of success at my firm. We actually tend to not only go after the benefits that you're entitled to, but we also pursue what's called punitive damages on many of our claims when we think that the insurance company has acted so egregiously, meaning they've acted with such bad faith that it rises to a level that they should be punished by the courts. We will pursue that, and we will pursue that on your behalf. And sometimes that part is worth more than the actual benefits. So if you have applied for long-term disability and you have been denied, do not hesitate to contact me. Some of my clients who have been injured in other ways and have lawsuits, let's say in a car accident or a slip and fall, they will have a lawsuit in that area, and they will also have an LTD lawsuit when their insurance company denies them benefits. And you can certainly have more than one, and we will represent you all across. Again, call us. It's very fact specific and case specific, and we're here to help with that. So let's take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll chat about dog bites.
Our company is committed to providing truthful, honest, competent, and result-oriented service through advising and representing our clients in Canada and overseas in a wide range of immigration matters. We focus on providing support, building dependable relationships, and promoting success. We are dedicated to understanding what results you want and to helping you understand what actions we can take on your behalf.
Good evening and welcome back to Tom's Radio and the Hoffman Law Show. My name is Jennifer Hoffman. I am your host as well as the managing partner at Hoffman Law. We are a personal injury and disability law firm. We're here today to discuss all areas of personal injury and, of course, answer your questions. So just before our commercial break, we discussed slip and falls and long-term disability benefits. The other area that we do quite a bit of work in is medical malpractice, and that is a very unique area of personal injury that arises where a medical professional has been negligent in his or her care, and their negligence has caused or contributed to further injury. So oftentimes clients will come to us after they've seen a doctor, they've been to a hospital, they've gone to a dentist. Medical malpractice doesn't involve only a doctor. It can also involve nurses, occupational therapists, social workers, etc. in a hospital, dentists, chiropractors, any regulated medical health professional. And they will come to us after a medical after their treatment had resulted in some sort of injury, or they received negligent treatment and a condition was overlooked, or there was a failure of diagnosis, and then the condition progressed and became worse and worse. So there is quite a lot that can happen in medical malpractice cases, and clients approach us under these circumstances, and we help navigate the system. We're going to focus on doctors specifically, although, like I said, you can have medical malpractice by other healthcare professionals. It doesn't only have to be a doctor, but for the purposes of today's show, we'll talk about doctors. Doctors are protected by the the CMPA, the Canadian Medical Protective Association. That is their insurance company. And medical malpractice is a particularly tough area of personal injury. You really need to know what you're doing. You really need to be well versed in this area and know exactly what the next steps are. You have to have the right experts on this file. You have to have the right medical opinions on this file, and you really need to know what you're doing. I actually, interestingly enough, started my career at a firm where we represented the Canadian Medical Protective Association. We were actually the lawyers for the insurance companies for doctors. And so I've seen the other side of a claim. I've seen the other side of this coin. And I know how they fight their claims. And so when clients come to me, I often have the kind of insight they're looking for to know how we should run a claim, how we should strategize, because suing medical professionals is not like suing another driver in an accident or suing a property owner whose property you fell on. It is a very specific, very particular area of the law. And like I said, you definitely need to know what you're doing. So I encourage you, if you suspect that you have been the victim of a medical malpractice case, please do not hesitate to call me. You can find us online at hoffmanlaw.ca. You can call us at 416-631-0000, extension 1, or 647-330-5364. Again, as always, free consultation. We'll take the time. We'll talk to you. We'll figure out what went wrong and how we can pursue, if there's a viable action, and how we can pursue it. So that's medical malpractice in a bit of a nutshell. The other area that people don't really realize that they can commence lawsuits in is dog bites. People don't know that when you've been bitten by somebody else's dog, you may have a right to sue that person for injuries that you sustained as a result of a dog bite. You may ask yourself, okay, well, what if the owner of the dog doesn't really have money to pay out my claim? Well, in dog bites, it's the home policy that typically answers the claim. So what does that mean? If I own a dog and I'm walking my dog and my dog attacks someone and that someone gets injured because of my dog and I get sued for that injury, my home insurance will answer the claim. So any money that is collected by that person for their injuries gets paid for by my home insurance. Okay. So you don't really need to worry about suing the individual themselves and whether that individual is going to have money or not. It's the insurance company that answers the claim and that will pay out the claim. The other interesting things about dog bites is they're what we call absolute liability. So it means that once you've been bitten by a dog, you, in most cases, do not need to prove that the owner of the dog was negligent. The liability part is removed from the equation. We deal strictly with damages or injuries, rather. Now, actually, someone wrote in a question about a dog bite. I was bitten by a dog in a friend's store. I don't want to sue my friend. What do I do? Okay, so this actually is a good question because, like I said, even though you're suing your friend, it's not your friend that's paying out of pocket for your injuries. It's their insurance company. And I would need a bit more information about this store that you were in, whether it was part of a mall, part of a plaza. You may even have a right to sue not your friend, not just your friend, but also the property owners, depending on what type of rules they have about keeping dogs on the premises. It could be a hybrid situation. I actually had a case several years ago now where my client went to a jewelry store, and the jewelry store was located in somebody's private home. The owner of the jewelry store had a dog on the premises, and my client bent down to pet the dog, and the dog bit her in the face, took a huge chunk out of her cheek. She had to undergo tons of plastic surgery, and she's recovered, and she looks beautiful, brand new, good as new. But nonetheless, she suffered very serious injuries. We sued the owner of the store, but it was her home insurance that responded because it was out of her house, plus her liability insurance for her commercial use of the space. So as a business, she had commercial liability insurance. They responded as well as the home insurer, and that's where all of the money came from. That was actually a very big case, and the person that was bitten recovered hundreds of thousands of dollars. We were able to get her several of hundreds of thousands of dollars because of this dog bite. So for people out there who don't know, if you get bitten by a dog, you definitely have a right to sue. Call me. We'll talk about it. As always, it's a free consultation. Like I said, we practice in a lot of areas, and there are so many different ways that people can get hurt. But unfortunately, oftentimes people don't realize that they have the right to sue. And so I really do encourage you, even if you don't think you have a viable lawsuit, call us. We'll chat about it. There may be a lawsuit even though you think that is not the case. We have lawsuits. We practice in what's called product liabilities. For example, if you buy a product, that product is defective, and you get injured as a result, call us. We will investigate. We will look into who the manufacturer is. We will look into how it's designed, and we will sue the right parties if there is a viable claim there. A few years ago, I had a client who purchased a stool, and she used the stool improperly. She stood on the stool and to try and reach for something above in the cabinets above, and the stool broke. She fell down, smashed her head on the floor, major brain injury. And when they came to me, they said, well, we don't really think we have a lawsuit here because I wasn't supposed to be standing on this stool. I was supposed to be sitting on it. Like, can I pursue? And I said, absolutely. And we did pursue a claim in those circumstances in that case. And while she was found to be slightly responsible for her own injuries, because, like I said, she used the stool to climb on it. It's not intended for climbing, it's intended for sitting. It was improper use of the stool. But nonetheless, the stool was designed to be able to carry this person's weight. And so the manufacturing of the stool was clearly defective, and they were negligent in their manufacturing. And we were successful in a lawsuit, and we did obtain compensation. We got this woman quite a bit of money for her injuries. So, just because you think you did something wrong or you think that you might not have a case, call us. We'll be able to tell you and guide you on what rights you have. The other area that we practice in, and this is quite unique, I think, to our firm, especially given that we're Toronto lawyers, we also do boating accidents. Boating accidents, again, they're an animal in and of itself. It's a completely unique area of personal injury. It involves what's called the Marine Liability Act. It involves slightly different laws than motor vehicle accidents or slip and falls, even product liability. So not too many lawyers practice in boating accidents. We do, if you're injured at the cottage, if you're going on a boat, give us a call. We'll be happy to talk to you about your claim. I actually, we don't have too much time left, but there are a couple of questions that came in, and I want to make sure that I get to our questions. I also want to remind callers, feel free throughout the show, if you have any questions, you can call in. The number is on the screen, 416-900-5864, or you can Skype, and we'd be happy to answer any of your legal-related questions at any time. So feel free to call that number. After today's show, if you still have questions, you can call me, 416-631-0000 or 647-330-5364. Let's see. I have a question here. I was denied long-term disability. My employer is threatening to terminate my employment if I don't return to work. How will this affect any potential claim I have against? And then she names the insurance company. I won't say who the insurance company is, just in case. But there are several issues here, as far as I can tell. First of all, if you've been denied your long-term disability benefits, then you could potentially have a claim against your insurance company that has that policy, because they need to have grounds for denying your claim. And certainly I'm happy to discuss this further with you if you want to call me after the show. But as far as I understand from this question, and I'm going to assume that since you're saying that your employer wants you to return to work, that you're currently off work. And so, and I'm going to assume that you're also off work due to an injury or a medical condition that's preventing you from being able to work. So certainly there are issues here with the denial of the long-term disability benefits, but there's also a potential employment law and human rights issue here. There are laws that protect employees, and the employer cannot force you to go back to work if you're injured or if you're in no condition to work. And I strongly, strongly encourage you to speak not just to me about your long-term disability claim, but also speak with an employment lawyer who's going to be able to give you more information and guide you about your rights as to your employment and whether your employer has a right to terminate your position and your employment. A lot of it will depend on whatever medical documentation you've provided your employer. And again, it's very fact specific. I really, this is a very serious claim. If your employer is threatening to terminate your employment, you need to speak with the proper lawyers. You need to be informed about your rights. You can call my firm. We have a network of lawyers that we work with, and we will make sure to connect you with the right employment lawyer that will help assist you in your employment claim. And again, of course, we will help with the LTD component. I have one more question here about a gentleman that was hit he was hit by a vehicle as a cyclist, and then that cyclist disappeared. They don't have their own insurance. What options do they have? So again, I'm really sorry to hear this, and I don't know the extent of your injuries, but I'm happy to discuss everything with you after the show. In general, even if you've been hit by a car that disappears, as I said earlier in the show, you will be entitled at a very minimum to accident benefits. And then you may also have a lawsuit as against the vehicle that hit you, even if you don't know who they are. And we have it's a little bit complicated. I won't get into all the details on the show, but if you have your own insurance or you're a dependent of someone who has insurance, we look at every potential avenue. We dig under every rock, we turn over every rock, and we make sure that we pursue every potential angle to get you the potential compensation that you deserve. So that's from a lawsuit perspective. From an accident benefits perspective, every Ontarian is entitled to accident benefits. That is benefits for things such as income replacement if you're not able to work, medical and rehabilitation needs that you have, attendant care. So let's say a PSW that will come into your home and assist you with some of your self-care tasks depending on your injuries. So whether you have insurance or not, whether you know who the vehicle is that hit you or not, you will be entitled to accident benefits. If there's no insurer in place, the government does have a fund in place to ensure that people who are injured in these types of accidents, motor vehicle, public transportation, so on and so forth, have access to the immediate benefits that they require. So again, I encourage you to get in touch with a lawyer immediately. You can find us at www.hoffmanlaw.ca. Feel free to contact me. As always, it's a free consultation. I'm happy to discuss any of these issues further. And for any of our listeners out there, feel free to contact us if you have any more questions after our show. We are going to go to a quick commercial break. Welcome back to Tom's Radio and the Hoffman Law Show. I'm your host, Jennifer Hoffman. I am also the managing partner of Hoffman Law. We are a personal injury and disability law firm. We assist clients in all areas of personal injury and all types of injuries. And as I said before the break, feel free to call us if you have any more questions after my show. You can reach us anytime at hoffmanlaw.ca or 416-631-0000 extension 1 or 647-330-5364. Consultations are always free, and in fact, we don't charge anything up front for any of our clients. We will take on your case. We will pay all of the out-of-pocket expenses associated with carrying your case, and we do not charge or get paid until we successfully resolve your claim. So don't hesitate to contact us. If you're worried about finances, don't worry about that. If you're worried about whether you actually have a claim, call us, ask us, we'll give you the goods. If you think that maybe you don't have a claim because you caused the accident or the injury, again, call us, make sure. It's always good to know your rights. This is all the time we have today, folks. And I wish everybody a good night. See you all again next week.